Fred Film Radio, this is Gianluca de Angelis from the 23rd edition of nella Città, and I'm very happy to be here with Ben Leonberg, director, co-writer, co-producer, and DOP of Good Boy, and Kari Fischer, producer of the film, which is the opening here at nella Città. Love the movie, by the way.
Thank you.
My dog is called Indy as well, so, you know, but she's a girl.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's great how the movie starts from a what if, you know, a Stephen King-like what if, but then embraces bigger themes like post-pandemic fear, solitude, redefinition of the terms of family. You know, what does it mean to have a family across races as well?
Yeah.
So how did you put all these themes through the eyes of a dog, and how did you balance the tenderness and the deep questions that the movie arises?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we saw the choice to put Indy as the point of view character, not as a limitation, but as an opportunity. It certainly is hard. I mean, it's not easy to make a movie with a dog. Fortunately, if the hardest part of your film production is also the best part, it's still worth doing. So we really just wanted to take that idea of a dog as a point of view character for a film and then use all the cinematic, you know, storytelling tools, the sound, the juxtaposition of the shots to create that meaning in that performance, you know, take that as far as we could. In terms of the bigger themes, you know, as much of this is a horror story and as much as there's a lot you can read into the film about, you know, what was going on even when it was made, you know, during the pandemic, isolation was a practicality of the filmmaking process, but it's also a theme of the story. We also like to say that as a story between a person and his dog, or I should say maybe a dog and his person, it's a love story and it's not very complicated. You know, nobody questions why does this dog love this guy so much. You know, it just makes intuitive sense, and I think it's very easy to relate to.
And Kari, it was the first time that Indy ever acted in anything, right? And it took 3 years, something like that, right?
Yes, exactly. I think you were writing the film well before we had Indy, but we did not get Indy to be in the film. We got him to be our friend, which he was excellent at and continues to be. But yeah, it was when Ben was starting to make short proof of concepts for the film, making these little short films where he was literally copying scenes from famous horror movies, trying to figure out how do you make a horror film with a dog, and then later making a short film that actually won a short film contest. And as part of that contest, Indy was nominated for Best Actor with thousands of other humans in competition.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that really kind of forced our hand that he was our star.
And at the very core of this film, there is a big theme, which is losing the ones we love. Can you tell us a little bit more how you developed this theme and how animals can help us in overcoming loss, overcoming fear of losing even?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think the character, to start with the last part of your question, is at the start of the film going through something very dark and very bad, and he's chosen to, you know, kind of seclude himself from the rest of the world and only have his dog with him as his support system. And I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, not necessarily going off into the woods to be totally alone, but we in the real world get so much from our pets. We get so much from Indy as a pet. He brings us so much joy and happiness every day. It's not hard to understand why someone in a really dark place might just want to be with this, you know, this creature that loves them unconditionally. And then remind me the first part of your question again.
You know, that one of the core themes is loss, fear of losing something. So how did you, you know, handle this deep thematic in a film like this?
So I think that most ghost stories and haunted house films are about human anxieties about death and dying, about the afterlife and what comes next. And in the real world, I think a lot of us maybe first learn about death and dying through our pets. Just because dogs, cats, pets don't live as long as we do. And as children, that's when we first learn about what that kind of loss can be like. The film also imagines, in addition to being a haunted house thrill ride, what's it like for a pet to experience all of that? What's it like for an animal to experience mortality, not its own, but of a person it loves very deeply? I think animals are just so deeply empathetic. I mean, we see ourselves in them. and it's easy to relate to them as characters going through something like that.
And it's very nice how you worked in a lot of different fields. You know, you work in advertisement, and you experience in VR, and there is a lot of experimentation as well in the film. Technically speaking, there are POVs. There are the camera is on the ground following Indy, and it's amazing how there is Indy who follows these kind of inputs. So how do you work on the technique on one side, and how much of Indy is improvisation, and how much it was hard to pull it the way you did?
Yes, why don't I start by talking about some camera, and then you want to talk about how Indy's movement was managed?
Yeah.
All right. So to start on the technical side, I mean, I definitely love the craft of filmmaking. It all has to support the story and the character, but as you notice, I'm also the DP of the film, so I had a lot of fun just exploring how can camera and lenses be used to capture a really unique canine performance, but then also practically pull this off. It was just the two of us on set for, I think, all but a small handful of days where we had other sets of hands to help out. And part of that was to keep everything distraction-free. Every other person or piece of equipment that would be in the house with us where we actually lived and we're making this film is another distraction for Indy. So I think one of the things I took from working in immersive media and virtual reality was this kind of very almost surround spatial awareness for cameras of places we could put cameras, maybe even have them locked off and stationary, and then be in the scene with Indy, but then paint ourselves out afterwards. So we were both standing in at times as the characters of the film, and then there's plenty of other shots where we're on camera with Indy, but I've removed us in post, not through a CGI effect, but just because I'll record things twice, once with me in the scene, then once without me. And you can it's an old school camera trick. I mean, it's been around since the birth of cinema to make it seem like Indy's out there, acting on his own accord.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then in terms of getting Indy's performance, so a mantra we developed over the course of the 3 years of filming was that hard things were easy and easy things were hard. So hard things like those complex tracking shots that you're talking about, oftentimes we would be able to get Indy to do that, one, because he's a very active dog and he loves kind of solving puzzles and moving around, and so we would establish kind of actual breadcrumb trails with his food for him to follow around the house, or perhaps, Ben would be at the bottom of the stairs and I'd be hiding around the corner at the top and I would call him up. And so those went really well. And very often, we would shoot that, have 6 takes and all 6 were usable. But then on the other hand, things that would normally be quite easy, especially if you have a human actor, like a close-up, with a person, you can say, okay, look up, look down, change your expression slightly. We couldn't do any of that with Indy. And on top of that, again, he's a very active dog. So asking him to just stand still was almost impossible. That was definitely one of those situations where we would try on a Monday, fail, try on a Tuesday, fail, and maybe finally get it on Wednesday, just because he would, move around and move out of focus, or just be impatient and want to go outside and play fetch instead.
We can't say enough, he does not know he was in a movie.
But the result is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I love the film, so congratulations to both of you. Thanks a lot to Leonberg and Kari Fischer, director and producer of Good Boy and in These Humans.
Yes.
And Angelis from the 23rd edition of Alice nella Città, and this is Fred, the Festival Insider. Thanks again.